We had Tom Hiddleston on the show.
We did.
Last week. He was a splendid guest, wasn't he?
He was. He had great hair.
And also...
I wanted to ask him about his hair products, but I understood that we didn't have time.
No, we could get some extra sponsorship though. That would have been quite good. You know how the most unflattering image of everybody is that one on a Zoom call, or when you see your reflection in your iPad or in your phone.
Except not him.
Unless you're Tom Hiddleston, in which case
he just looked
fabulous.
Rakishly fabulous.
Anyway, he was with us last week to talk about the Essex Serpent. It's out today on Apple TV+. What did you make of it?
So 6 parts, of which I've watched all 6, but the thing I have to learn is, let's only talk about the sort of first few, because I now want to spoil it for you.
No.
Although I'm not going to, because
I'm only 4 episodes in, so I still have 2 to go.
Okay, so I haven't read the source novel. Had you read?
No, I haven't. I've had it recommended to me.
Okay.
A lot, but I have ignored those recommendations. So this is the first time I'm coming to it.
Okay, so the story basically is Claire Danes is Cora Seaborne, who is she comes to a point in her life when suddenly new horizons open up. She is a naturalist who goes to Essex in search of a legendary sea dragon, sea creature, which has been sighted, and it turns out is the subject of, local mythology. Images of serpents are carved into the local church ornaments. Tom Hiddleston is the vicar, whose flock believe in the serpent. They believe that the serpent is not only real, but is also some kind of divine vengeance. A child goes missing. The local children are terrified. And I think it's in episode 3. There is this scene which very much recalls Carol Morley's film The Falling, in which there is a classroom in which it seems like some kind of communal possession or hallucination or whatever, fainting fits, is taking place. And the film kind of almost tips over into being a full-on gothic supernatural ghost story. And meanwhile, the central character, Cora, played by Claire Danes, is not being taken seriously by the scientific establishment. I mean, like Kate Winslet in Ammonite, that thing about she's discovered all this stuff but still not kind of able to find a place at the table.
Yes.
Fossils, exactly. Meanwhile, Hiddleston's vicar is having problems with people losing the faith. I mean, people believing in serpents and devils and demons and turning to the church. So at the centre of it all, you said this thing about it's not about a serpent. Okay.
Well, I just thought it was worth picking that up and running with it for a while.
The question is, what is the serpent? And there are many things in the drama that could be the serpent. So it's about faith versus science versus rationalism. It's about religion versus psychiatry, because we see emergent psychiatric processes. We also, hypnosis. We also see the birth of heart surgery and, dealing with corporeal matters in a scientific fashion rather than dealing with them in a kind of, mythical fashion. So it's happening at a time when everything is in flux, when established systems are breaking down. There's a whole underlying story about socialism and housing and the rising movement for workers' rights. So everything is in flux. The old systems are breaking down. The new systems are emerging, but they're not yet accepted. And all of those things can be interpreted in some way as the serpent. I mean, is the serpent the river that snakes through the marshes? Is the serpent the branding that somebody bears on their body as a part of their own personal backstory? Is the serpent the hysteria that seems to be engulfing the children? The thing that people believe in, because when you take away the thing that they believe in, they need to believe in something else. And interestingly, when I started watching the series, I found the first episode quite hard to get on with. It's directed by Clive Barnard, and partly I think I found it hard to get on with because the tone of it is very different to Clive Barnard's films. So if you look at something like Alien Ava or, Selfish Giant, they have a kind of an almost documentary verite feel to them. That is what I associate with Clive Barnard. This is much more theatrical. It's obviously it's an episodic drama based on a literary source. So of course that's going to be the case. And I particularly found Claire Danes' performance brittle in the lead, and I confess that I never fully relaxed into her performance throughout the whole series. Tom Hiddleston, fine, corner pocket, absolutely believed him entirely. I mean, you and I spoke to each other after having watched a couple of episodes, and you said, well, he's basically playing Tom Hiddleston, isn't he? He's the character who's...
He's very Tom.
He's very Tom,
yes.
And he's very good at doing that. And that's in no way to diminish the performance, because it's a very good bit of casting. All I would say was, I never fully relaxed into her casting in that role. I don't know why, it just never kind of quite sat with me. And that was emphasised by the fact that I think Tom Hiddleston literally just put those clothes on and walked into the role, yes, and felt like he was walking through the thing. But having had a slightly sticky start with the first episode and thinking, why is this not... It's when we get to the falling, suddenly it was like the whole thing supercharged. And from then on, I was gripped. I was swept up in the story of what is the Serpent and why do people believe in the Serpent, and all these intertwining things, serpentine intertwining, that are going on, because it's a film that it happens in that hinterland between the land and the sea, between the sea and the sky, between faith and science, between old school and new. It takes place on that cusp. And actually, after that, it had me. And
I thought it was interesting, and it came out in the conversation that we had with Tom, is that the roles aren't exactly what you'd imagine. So the priest is the rationalist in saying, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's the scientist, Claire Danes, who's saying, no, it's real.
Yes, there is a real beast. And that goes, actually, one of the marvellous things about the falling scene is that it is spurred on by the fact that she goes to speak to the children in order to reassure them, because she's the scientific rationalist. And they say, is the serpent real? And rather than saying no, she goes, well.
Exactly. Also, the other thing about the timing of it is that the story and the kind of timeless nature of the way this part of Essex looks is that, I mean, it's 18...
I don't know this part of Essex
at all. Well, it's 1893, but it could be 1793. And then there's one, apart from the housing and the socialism and all that, and then there's a bit where one of the boys says he's going to go on the underground. And I remember thinking... Really? And then, of course, that is, that places it specifically in a part of Victoriana which I hadn't quite got a handle on.
But do you agree with what I mean about that? It's on the whole point is it's happening on the cusp of two different ways of life,
which makes it all the more fertile ground.
Exactly.
The Essex Serpent.
And it is about
Apple
the serpent.
TV plus the serpent and the apple. See, it's all Adam and Eve. Would you Adam and Eve?
That's why you got an MBE.